Coming up on Bridge City News, another Lethbridge restaurant is temporarily closing its dining room due to COVID-19 concerns. A new service by Legal Aid is being offered to allow Albertans to prepare for court by either phone or email. And we hear from a BC Lions quarterback who explains how faith and football go hand in hand.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. An Alberta man who was charged in roadside killings last March has been denied bail. 56-year-old Roger Bilodeau and his 31-year-old son Anthony are facing 2 counts of second-degree murder in the killings of 2 Métis hunters, 39-year-old Jake Sansom of Nobleford and 57-year-old Maurice Cardinal. They were both found shot to death on a rural road near Glendon, which is located around 225 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. Lethbridge Police have charged 2 men in connection with a multi-million-dollar investment fraud. Police say a city man was defrauded by more than $3 million by a Calgary-based investment company called RAEU Global and an Okotoks brokering firm called Taurus Capital. The companies said they would loan the victim $25 million for a major project in Ontario, but needed $3.1 million as a down payment. The down payment was provided, but the loan was never fulfilled. Further investigation revealed that the cash was taken and transferred to accounts in the Czech Republic. 46-year-old Josef Korech of Calgary and 36-year-old Dustin Ritter of Okotoks face a wide range of fraud and money laundering charges. Ritter will appear in court on September 3rd, and an arrest warrant has been issued for Korech. Lethbridge police are investigating after a vehicle and a cyclist collided last night. Police say the accident occurred around 7:30 p.m. on 4th Avenue South between 5th and 6th Street South. The cyclist sustained serious head injuries and was transported to Chinook Regional Hospital. He was later transferred to Calgary. The cyclist remains in hospital and the investigation continues. With the long weekend fast approaching, Lethbridge police are reminding us to drive safely, and if you plan to drink, please do not drive. LPS are planning to do road checks across the province to get impaired drivers off the road.
The message that I'd like to send out to everyone is that if you're in doubt if you should be driving or not after you've consumed alcohol or drugs, then be cautious and don't drive at all. For starters, you could hurt somebody. Or you could kill somebody or cause a bunch of damage to your vehicle or someone else's vehicle or property. On top of that, it's a criminal offense to drive while over the legal limit of alcohol and consumption of drugs. So you could face significant fines and penalties in the court process. Over the first 6 months of 2020, we've responded to 169 complaints of impaired drivers, and as a result of those investigations, 37% of those investigations resulted in a criminal charge for impaired driving.
Albertans will be able to remotely prepare for court thanks to a new initiative from Legal Aid Alberta. People will have access to Advance Appearance Duty Counsel until August 28th, allowing them to prepare for court by phone or email instead of making a trip to the courthouse in person. Marino Eliopoulos is a spokesperson with Legal Aid Alberta, and he says this help is needed, especially during a coronavirus pandemic.
We've created a service whereby anyone with a criminal court appearance can call us from 14 days before their appearance up to a day before their appearance. We can provide them with some preliminary legal advice, the way that we would if we were duty counsel in the courtroom there with them. We can also help them take some procedural steps, and we can help them make their appearance to move their matter forward. In terms of practicality, I think it becomes especially practical for some of the clients that we serve who are experiencing issues with poverty or who may live in rural areas but may have to appear in court in an urban center, by allowing them both to get some legal advice in advance of their court appearance and also to spare them actually having to go into court in person.
Legal Aid was adopted by all provinces in Canada by the mid-1970s, offering publicly funded legal services to underprivileged clients. Have you ever experienced a call asking for your personal credit card information or money, usually in the form of gift cards? Many times the callers will tempt you with government grants if the recipient pays with a prepaid debit card or gift card. Shauna K. Thomas from the Better Business Bureau says they're offering tips for ways to spot these government imposter scams.
If they're asking for your personal information as well, be very wary of that. Usually government agencies can confirm with you your personal information, and then they will go ahead and proceed with a conversation. But if these people are asking you what your personal information is, you want to be very, very careful of that. So look out for those subtle red flags. They're aggressive. They're asking you for personal information. They're asking you to wire money to them or to send money with gift cards or sending, using a prepaid debit card, for example, to make a payment. Those are red flags we want to be looking out for.
To complain about government scammers, you can always call the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre at 1-888-495-8501. Another business in our city is temporarily closing its dining room due to the rising numbers of COVID-19 cases in Lethbridge. A Facebook posting by Top Pizza and Spaghetti House say they will still be offering takeout and delivery services, however. Management says the move was necessitated to protect staff, customers, and family as much as possible.
Numbers are rising. I've been watching it for the last probably 10 days because you've seen it go up. You see people in big crowds, and I don't think we're being responsible enough. For me, it's about risk, but to put my staff at risk of hitting it in turn, I'm also at risk, and my family is at risk. My elderly parents are at risk, and that's just not anything I'm willing to do.
For 2 days in a row, Lethbridge recorded 8 new COVID-19 cases. Active infections in the city have now reached 43, which is the highest during the pandemic. The Alberta government is eliminating over 10,000 commercial carrier permits as a way to cut red tape for truckers. Commercial carrier trucks in Alberta have to match a specific size, weight, and limit. Alberta truck drivers have to obtain permits in Alberta for equipment that is allowed in many other jurisdictions. Al Nelson is the dispatcher at JVD Trucking, and he says that this new information is good news for the trucking industry.
Well, it impacts us because it's time-consuming for permits that really are not needed. Everybody's running similar equipment in our type of business, and we need permits for lift axles and tack permits for this county and that county, and so it takes away a lot of clerical stuff from us. As far as a cost saving, I wouldn't want to put a number on it, but there is a cost saving because it's time, and time is money. Well, it's good news, and I believe from what I read, it's supposed to take effect on January 1st, and I believe all of our permits expire on January 1st or December 31st, so it's going to save some time right away, you know.
Alberta boasts over 25,000 commercial carriers and over 136,000 commercial vehicles. If you've been waiting to get your hands on some Tabor corn, you may be in luck. Johnson Fresh Farms is doing a soft launch, making their world-class vegetable available at a few select locations. BCN's Ainsley O'Reilly caught up with the Johnson family, and they too are excited for this year's bumper crop.
Corn season is officially underway. Johnson Fresh Farms in Tabor is known for its world-class product, and they've done a soft launch in various southern Alberta towns starting Thursday.
Pretty much everyone who just loves corn and can't wait for it, and they kind of understand that, all right, the very best stuff isn't quite off the bat, but hey, they're ready for corn, and it still tastes really good, so.
Last year, a big hailstorm wiped out much of their harvest. And this year, an early hailstorm impacted the Johnson family as well.
This year, we had a big hailstorm that came earlier, so it gave the stuff that was involved a little time to recover, but we'll see how that all plays out.
Johnson Tabor Corn and Potatoes posted to its Facebook that the corn is ready to go, and it's already been shared over 2,100 times.
It's always nice when we still get tons of emails and stuff about people who have just fabulous corn and love it.
Some locations in Lethbridge that are participating in the soft launch include the Movie Mill, Fast Gas, and Nutters. For Bridge City News, I'm Ainsley O'Reilly.
Federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer spoke with the media today about the weed charity scandal. Scheer says the Tories want the RCMP to launch a criminal investigation into the matter.
This entire scandal reeks of corruption at the highest levels of government. We know that after Justin Trudeau became Prime Minister, we started paying members of his family. Over the last 5 years, those payments have totaled more than $500,000. We know that Justin Trudeau's government has rewarded we with multiple sole source contracts over the past 5 years, well before they ever dreamt up the Canada Student Service Grant.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is making a rare prime ministerial appearance at the House of Commons Finance Committee. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says he has confidence in Health Minister Tyler Shandro, despite a new survey suggesting most doctors do not. The Alberta Medical Association says 98% of members who cast ballots said they have no confidence in Shandro. The minister has been embroiled in a dispute with doctors since imposing a new pay structure on physicians in February. Kenney says his government is not accountable to members of a special interest group that account for about 10% of the province's budget. The province announced that there were 113 new cases of COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. There are currently 148 active cases here in the South Zone, and 1,477 people have now recovered. There were also 5 new deaths. Our province's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. JEANNETTE, says to keep on top of the virus, COVID-19 testing will be expanded throughout the province at various pharmacies.
Last month, as you know, we began a pilot project to provide people with asymptomatic testing at a small group of community pharmacies. This pilot was initially kept small to allow us to refine the process involved in working with the pharmacies, collecting swabs, and transporting and testing the samples. This project was a success. More than 10,000 people were safely tested at the pilot pharmacies in the last month. Based on this success, we're expanding the program to any pharmacy that wants to offer testing and is able to meet the safety requirements. Testing can begin as soon as the pharmacy is enrolled and receives the necessary test supplies from Alberta Precision Labs.
Hinshaw says the program may take a few weeks to get online for pharmacies since they must first enroll before they can begin testing. A new report says 75% of Saskatchewan's active COVID-19 cases are on Hutterite colonies. The Ontarian Safety Council has been working with the communities for months and says that most are cooperative. A few are being resistant, however, to testing and unwilling to end communal eating and worshipping in large groups. The council's chairman says this has to stop. Meanwhile, in Manitoba, government officials there are reporting 3 new cases of COVID-19, including 1 in Winnipeg. The province says there are 74 active cases with 6 people in hospital. The total number of cases stands at 407, including 8 deaths. Across Canada, there are 116,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus, but fortunately, 100,000 people have now recovered. Ann Maines may be a name familiar to you. She used to be the host of 100 Huntley Street. Ann has also been battling cancer. BCN's Jeanette Rocher recently chatted with Ann about the powerful response to journaling her cancer journey has received from so many followers.
I started thinking, well, I know there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. This was last fall, and I thought if I can even help one person by sharing one of my devotionals on Facebook, then it would be worth it. And so I started doing that. I started just very timidly sharing here and there. And I was really surprised at the feedback I got. Before I knew it, I had thousands of people tracking with me in my devotionals, many of them writing back private messages to me, sharing their own difficult journey they were going through.
Watch the inspiring interview with Ann Maines discussing her cancer journey coming up in the second half of our program. Will Arndt is a backup quarterback for the BC Lions of the Canadian Football League. He's also a Christian athlete. I asked Will what players pray about when they kneel with opposition players in a circle at the end of the game.
It's such a unique dynamic. You got guys that were just, basically going to battle against each other, and then in a matter of 5 minutes, they're holding hands and they're praying for each other's health and families and transportation and travel. So it's just really cool. The dynamic of professional football is really unique in that matter because it is truly everybody's on the same team at the end of the day. So that dynamic has been really cool for me, and to stay to keep my faith a part of the game has been great.
Catch the entire interview with CFL QB Will Arndt discussing faith and football coming up in the second half of our show. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says that he and his team have warned Russian officials about all threats that Russia poses to Americans and U.S. interests in various parts around the world. There were reports that Russia allegedly paid bounties to kill U.S. service members.
I'll tell you that, make no mistake about it, the proper people have been aware of every single threat to our soldiers on the ground in Afghanistan, whether that was General Miller or my team at the embassy there in Kabul. Anytime there was a tactical threat on the lives or the health or the safety and security or our assets in place, we have raised this with our Russian counterparts, not only at my level, but Ambassador Sullivan and every one of our team that interacts with the Russians. We've made very clear our expectations.
According to a recent report by World Vision, close to 8 million children have been pushed into child labor and are begging due to the worldwide economic effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. As we hear in this next report, the charity says at least 110 million kids have gone hungry due to the pandemic.
Millions of parents and caregivers in developing countries around the world have lost incomes and jobs due to COVID-19, forcing them to expose their children to harmful and dangerous circumstances such as begging or child labour. World Vision has conducted rapid assessments in 24 countries across Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, confirming alarming predictions of increased child hunger, violence and poverty due to the economic impact of COVID-19. Sherian Thomas, World Vision's regional leader for South Asia Pacific, based in Bangalore in India, explains how this crisis has impacted their region.
In our sample of our communities that we surveyed in the Asia Pacific region, we covered a total of 9 countries. Over 60% of people had loss of livelihood and loss of income because of their lost livelihood opportunities, and that is therefore quite serious. And that is why children, in one sense, were being sent out to work, and children were also sometimes asked to beg. And sometimes the children themselves, older children, when they see hunger at home and problems in the home, they tend to, and there are stories of children who have gone to beg because they just saw how dire the straits of the family are, and they thought they could contribute by going out and begging.
Thomas says in response, World Vision has launched a program to help the most vulnerable families.
It is about making sure that from a livelihood point of view, in the short term, livelihood loss is covered by what we call cash and voucher programming. So by end of June, in our Asia Pacific area itself, we had distributed about $11.4 million of cash and voucher assistance to families. So that then allows them to a certain degree of cash is available with them, which they can use then for essential supplies. And we have monitoring and checks and tracking systems which ensure that these are finally used for buying essentials for the household, food for children, nutritious food, and this covered almost 500,000 people who were reached with cash and voucher assistance.
Peter Wooding for the Global News Alliance.
Nice to see the good work that World Vision is doing. The heat warning continues for much of southwestern Alberta, but there's a chance of a reprieve tomorrow. Full weather details are coming up. It was another hot one today as the heat warning from Environment Canada continues. Jeanette Rocher is here now with a complete look at the weather forecast. Jeanette, for those of us who are hoping for slightly cooler temps, we could potentially see that tomorrow, along with a chance of showers.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see all those clouds this morning as well, but you are right, Hal. We could see some showers beginning this evening, overnight low of 16 degrees. Into tomorrow, 40% chance of showers early in the morning for Friday. It is going to clear though, and it's going to get warm again. 26 is the high for tomorrow, 16 degrees is our overnight low. And as we get into the weekend, those temperatures are going to rise. They're going to keep on rising. 33 is our high expected for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday under sunny skies, as that heat warning is still in effect for southern Alberta, including Lethbridge. Then we're going to see some showers developing on Monday evening into Tuesday. 60% chance of showers next Tuesday with a high of 24 degrees. 25 is our high expected for next Wednesday with a mix of sun and cloud. Now, the almanac tells us that the average high this time of year is 26 degrees. We're certainly reaching higher than that. 11 degrees is our average low. 35 was the high temperature on this day. That was back in 1939. 1954 held our lowest day on record, which is 6 degrees. Now, the sun rose at 6 a.m. today. We're out of that 5 o'clock hour as the days are getting a little bit shorter now. Sunset this evening, 9:16 p.m. So I think we have about 2 minutes shorter of daylight today than we did yesterday. Over on the west coast tomorrow, thunderstorms expected in Victoria. 27 is the high, 25 in Vancouver. Sunshine tomorrow in Edmonton, 24 degrees, 22 is the high in Calgary. Now, both of those cities no longer under the heat warning, and both cities could be seeing some showers developing overnight. Saskatoon still has their heat warning in effect. 26 is their high tomorrow. Sunshine. Mix of sun and cloud over in Regina with a high of 27, and Winnipeg could see a high of 26 with some thunderstorms developing. Beautiful sunny skies tomorrow expected in Toronto and Ottawa with highs of 28 and 27. Montreal could see some thunderstorms developing beginning tonight and into tomorrow. 25 is the high. Now, Fredericton, lots happening here with they could see a possibility of not just thunderstorms, but very heavy rain up to 25 millimeters. Lots of hail expected as well, and possibly damaging winds up to 80 kilometers per hour. So they are under a severe thunderstorm watch for this evening, and that's going to go into tomorrow. Charlottetown also thunderstorms expected. Same thing for Halifax with a high of 27. Now St. John's, Newfoundland, high of 19 degrees tomorrow. Drizzle expected tonight and right through tomorrow. So there you go. That is your forecast.
Today's weather highlights are brought to you by Gym in the North, top-notch equipment and customized classes in Lethbridge's North End.
Some more bad news for the oil sands in our province. French energy giant Total says it is writing off $9.3 billion worth of oil sands assets in our province. It will also cancel its membership in the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers. The company says oil reserves with high production costs that are to be produced for more than 20 years in the future will be stranded given its carbon reduction targets. Alberta Energy Minister Sonia Savage calls Total's decision highly hypocritical. She says while Canadian producers are working to reduce emissions, Total continues to invest in countries like Russia, Nigeria, and Myanmar. Husky Energy is reporting lower than expected second quarter revenue of $2.38 billion. That is down 55% from a year earlier. Analysts were expecting $2.73 billion. The Calgary-based oil producer says it lost $304 million in the quarter, compared with net income of $370 million a year earlier. Husky says it acted quickly to cut capital spending and cost stabilizing its business in response to a severe drop in product demand amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Maple Leaf Foods says gains in plant protein sales helped push it to a second quarter profit of $25.7 million. That compares with a loss of $6.3 million a year earlier. Maple Leaf says revenues increased 7% to $1.09 billion. It says stronger sales were largely offset by COVID-19 costs and investments in plant protein, where sales were up 41.4%. 1 in 7 businesses in the arts, entertainment, and recreation sectors is in danger of closing permanently in Canada. Now, that's according to a new study by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. The group says businesses, including fitness gyms to concert revenues and even some news organizations, are the most at risk, with 30% saying they will likely wind down their operations due to COVID-19. Meanwhile, 27% of the hospitality sector, which includes restaurants, hotels, and caterers, say they too will see a grim future. A technology research firm says Huawei has overtaken Samsung to become the world's biggest smartphone seller. Analysts say its home market in China emerged from the coronavirus pandemic better than other economies. They say Huawei shipped 55.8 million devices in the second quarter, but that's down 5% from a year ago. It was smaller, however, than the rival Samsung, which saw smartphone sales slide 30% to 53.7 million. A U.S. congressional committee investigating the power of major technology companies accused Google of leveraging its dominant search engine to steal from other websites and manipulate results to drive people to its own digital platforms.
First question, Mr. Pichai, is why does Google steal content from honest businesses?
I disagree with that characterization. Just last week, I met with many small businesses. In fact, today we support 1.4 million small businesses, supporting over $385 billion in economic activity.
Mr. Pichai, isn't there a fundamental conflict of interest between serving users who want to access the best and most relevant information and Google's business model, which incentivizes Google to sell ads and keep users on Google's own sites?
We've always focused on providing users the most relevant information, and we rely on that trust for users to come back to Google every day. In fact, a vast majority of queries in Google, we don't show ads at all. And we show ads only for a small subset of queries where the intent from users is highly commercial.
Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was up 4 points in the day to finish at 16,299. The Dow was down 225 points to 26,313. The S&P 500 was down 12 points to 3246. The Nasdaq was up 44 points to finish at 10,587. Oil was down 94 cents to $40.33 per barrel. Natural gas was down 9 cents to $1.84. Gold was down 3 cents to $19.5661 an ounce. And silver was unchanged on the day at $23.50 an ounce. Wheat is at $228 per metric ton. Barley's at $235. Canola's at $4.91. And corn is at $228 per metric ton. Live cattle were up 66 cents to $106.75. Feeder cattle were up $1.05 to $143.03, and lean hogs were down $1.65 to $51.43. The Canadian dollar was down slightly on the day to $74.48 US. Recapping one of our top stories this hour, an Alberta man who was charged in roadside killings last March has been denied bail. 56-year-old Roger Bilodeau and his 31-year-old son Anthony are facing 2 counts of second-degree murder in the killings of 2 Métis hunters, 39-year-old Jake Sansom of Nobleford and 57-year-old Maurice Cardinal. They were both found shot to death on a rural road near Glendon, which is located around 225 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. According to the Canadian Cancer Society, cancer is the leading cause of death in Canada and is responsible for 30% of all deaths. In fact, it's estimated that this year alone, over 225,000 Canadian men and women will be diagnosed with the disease. Coming up, a powerful interview BCN's Jeanette Rocher had with former 100 Huntley Street host Ann Maines about her journey with cancer.
Our next guest knows firsthand what it's like for life to take an unexpected turn. Ann Maines is the television host of A Better Us and the former host of 100 Huntley Street, which we air right here on Miracle Channel. And 1 year ago, Maines received a devastating phone call from her doctor informing her of a cancer diagnosis. And she's journaled her way through this journey over the past year and has now turned that journal into a devotional to help others. Joining me now from her home in Waterloo, Ontario is Ann Maines. Ann, welcome to the show. We are so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you, Jeanette. It is my privilege to be with you.
Now, you've had such a brave journey over the past year, but maybe take us back to that day that you found out you had cancer. Your husband was away that day, right? Maybe tell us the story.
Yes, he was away. Well, nothing prepares you for the phone call from the doctor. Ron was 2 hours away playing golf in a fundraising golf tournament, and I was all alone at home when the doctor called me that the results of a recent biopsy had come back. Now, I had had mammograms for years, faithfully, and they had always been fine, but this last mammogram was different. And so the doctor then sent me for further testing, and the biopsy then showed that there were cancer cells present. She was shocked, and I, of course, was shocked. After I hung up the phone with her, I didn't know what to do, Jeanette. I thought, do I call Ron? Do I let him know? Or do I give him one last day to just be carefree and normal? I thought, well, I'll just call him and kind of feel out the situation, just see what's going on. And so as soon as he answered the phone, he was laughing. And the first thing he said to me was, honey, I think I might have just won the putting competition. And my heart sunk. I thought, oh no, he's having such a good day. So I didn't know what to do, but I thought Ron would want to know. So he slipped away so we could chat. And I told him, and he said to me, honey, give me 10 minutes. Let me get my golf clubs. I'm going to come home. I'll call you from the car. And so for the next hour and a half, basically, we talked and prayed and cried on the phone. And it was during the course of that conversation, Jeanette, that I said, I really feel like God wants me to journal my journey. There was no purpose for it. I just had that sense. And so he said to me, well, I'll be home in about 45 minutes. Let's hang up and you write your first journal entry. And that's what I did.
Oh, wow. So right there and then that led you to start journaling right away that very day, and it just you just kept going from there. Was it sort of a way to process what you were going through a little bit?
Exactly. That's exactly what was happening. I just sensed that God wanted me to write down what I was learning through this unexpected journey. Every time I journaled, every time I wrote a devotional, I started with where I was that day. From like a month after my diagnosis, I had surgery. A couple of weeks after that, it was revealed that I would need chemotherapy, which I totally did not expect. I didn't see that coming. In fact, when the doctor told me that, I literally doubled over in her office. I couldn't believe I was going to need chemotherapy. But you know what? It was just part of my journey. And as you can imagine, I suffered all the side effects that come with chemotherapy. I mean, I had severe nausea, severe fatigue, and I lost all of my hair. And as a woman, that's kind of hard to take. But in fact, I'm still regrowing it. I'm sporting my new wig here, just trying to feel as normal as possible. but throughout the whole journey, Jeanette, every milestone that I had, every dark night of the soul, I would just pick up my laptop and my Bible, and I would just start journaling. And it was through those journaling times that God really brought healing and comfort to my spirit.
Right. And this daily journaling you started actually publishing, right, on social media? So that's a very public forum to start your, share personal thoughts. So what was that like?
It is. Well, after I had written several devotionals and I just found such healing in them as I was writing them. I just felt God's Holy Spirit just bringing healing to my spirit. I started thinking, well, I know there's a lot of people out there that are hurting. This was last fall, and I thought if I can even help one person by sharing one of my devotionals on Facebook, then it would be worth it. And so I started doing that. I started just very timidly sharing here and there. And I was really surprised at the feedback I got. Before I knew it, I had thousands of people tracking with me in my devotionals, many of them writing back private messages to me, sharing their own difficult journey they were going through. And it wasn't always health related. Sometimes it was relationship or financial or whatever. But it was something difficult that they're going through. And many of them would say, Anne, these are so helpful. You need to consider putting them into a book. And so that's kind of where the idea for the book came from.
Right. So that came from people that were following you, and you're like, hey, this is a good idea. So this led you to actually publish your journal entries into a book called Coffee with Him, Mornings with God on an Unexpected Journey, right? So it was released on June 10th of this year, and it quickly became the #1 best-selling devotional on Amazon Canada. So congratulations on that, by the way. That's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you. You know, Jeanette, when God first led me to start writing these devotions over a year ago, there was no purpose for them. It was just me kind of stepping out in obedience, saying, okay, God, if you want me to journal, if this is the best way you have me to heal through this journey, here I am, I'm going to do it. Little did I know what would happen as a result of the 31-day devotional that this process became. And I'm just so thankful to God that He was able to use the lessons that I learned, because there are so many dark nights of the soul when you're walking this kind of a journey. And especially now during COVID, there are so many dark nights of the soul for so many people. And so He knew, even then, a year ago, that the lessons I was going to learn would be used to help other people now.
That's amazing. So now, to be clear, it's a devotional. It's not a biography or a memoir of your journey, right? So why don't you explain a little bit? Tell us about the book. What's in it?
Well, it's like I said, it's a 31-day devotional. The very first day, I encourage readers to just pick it up first thing in the morning, Coffee with Him. So grab your Bible and the book, the Coffee with Him book, and a cup of coffee, and just go somewhere private with the Lord. Have those few extra moments with Him before you start your day. That's what I'm encouraging readers to do. Each day is a very short reading. You can read it in less than 5 minutes. Each day ends with what I like to call sips to savor. So it's on the track with the coffee theme. And then, so those are questions that you ask yourself about the devotional. How can that relate to my life today? And then there's a prayer starter, where sometimes if you're in a difficult time, you really don't know what to say to God. I know I had lots of times like that through my journey, where you just kind of sit there and say, okay, God, I've got so many questions. I don't know what to say. I wrote just a very short prayer starter at the end of each day's devotional, where it just begins a conversation with the Lord based on what you just read in that day. And then there's a notes section. I don't know about you, but I love taking notes when I'm going through a devotional. I like to journal, write down what I'm thinking, what's going through my mind as I'm reading what the author is saying and what the scriptures are saying. So that's basically the book. And the very first day of the 31 days is the very first devotional I wrote on that day, June the 10th, 2019, when my husband was still driving home to be with me. And that's how it starts and continues for 31 days.
It must have been hard for you to pick which 31 to put in your book, was it? How long did that take?
It was It was very hard because these are, like you said, Jeanette, these are so personal. And I share a lot in the book of my journey. I talk a lot about the day I lost my hair. Just a week into my second chemo treatment, I had 8 chemo treatments, 2 weeks apart, beginning the middle of September and finishing the week before Christmas. And just a week after my second chemo treatment, my hair started coming out in handfuls, like literally handfuls. And I knew that it was going to all come out, I was told. So I called my longtime friend and hairdresser, Ely, and I said, Ely, can you come to my house and shave my head? And so he did. He came, and I sat with my eyes closed and I held my husband's hand and I cried through most of it as Ely shaved my head. And that's one of the devotionals in the book because it was during that time that I sensed God's presence in such a sweet way. You know, when our heart is broken, when we're going through something that we just did not see coming, it doesn't take God by surprise and it doesn't take him unawares. He is with us. He is right there with us, holding us if we'll only let him. And I don't know about you, Jeanette, but I found that throughout my life, in some of those darkest times, those are the times that you learn more and more about the character of God, the love of God, the depth of the intimacy he wants to have with us. There's a verse in Isaiah that I just love. It's Isaiah 45, verse 3. In the, I think it's the NIV version, it says, God says to you and to me, he says, I will give you treasures in darkness, riches stored in secret places, so that you will know I am the Lord your God. And that says to me, as we are walking through those dark places, those dark times, not evil darkness, but confusion, you know, where you're floored, you don't know what's going on. As we walk through those dark times, we're not alone. God is with us. And not only is he with us, he has gifts for us in that darkness that we can only receive as we walk through those dark times. And for each of us, they look different. Some of them are very obvious and some of them are more subtle. But they're tailor-made for each of us on our journey.
Yeah. Now, speaking of your journey, obviously it's been with cancer, but obviously this devotional is for anyone going through any unexpected journey. And as you're just explaining all of that, that really makes sense to me. You know, that any unexpected journey, someone could pick up your book and probably just get so much out of it.
And you know what? God's word is filled with promises to us that he is with us no matter what we are going through. And that's another part of the book is as I was walking through this, my husband and I decided to call it a healing journey. So as I've been walking through this healing journey, there were so many Bible verses that just became so precious to me. So at the back of the book, I put over 100 of my favorite verses. So they're there for you if you're going through a difficult time. They're listed there because God's word is precious to us and he promises to be with us no matter what we go through. If we'll only come to him, dig into his word, receive from him the healing and the comfort that he is offering to us.
Yeah. Now, since then, you've had more of a positive diagnosis, right? Tell us where you are right now.
Yes, I have. Earlier this year, the doctors pronounced me cancer-free,
Wow.
and I am so thankful for that. I'm still healing, as you can imagine, but I'm just so thankful that that is the direction my journey has taken, and I'm so excited to be able to share with others that God can be with you too, no matter what you're going through.
That's amazing. And I'm so happy to hear that you are cancer-free, so you are in remission now.
Yes,
That's
yes.
wonderful. Where can people find your devotional, Anne?
Well, we have set up a very easy website for anyone. If you want to get my book, it's COFFEEWITHHIM.CA. COFFEEWITHHIM.CA, and that'll link you to exactly where you can get the book.
What has been the feedback so far from people?
Oh, it's been amazing. There have been so many people who have sent me private messages saying the devotionals in the book are meeting them exactly where they are. Many have said they are in the middle of a cancer journey. Many have said they've come through the other side. But I'm amazed, Jeanette, how many people are relating to the book that aren't having a health crisis. I heard from a lady last week. Her husband was just last week killed in a motorcycle accident, and she had just started reading my book, and she said that it's ministering to her. And so I am just so thankful to God that He is using me, of all people, to be able to reach out to them and bring His love and His healing and His comfort to them.
That's amazing. You guys are just going through such a big journey together, and your husband Ron has been with you through this the whole way.
Every step of the way. Yeah, Ron, he went with me to every chemo treatment. He was there holding my hand. He's been my rock. He likes to say he's my rock with a lowercase r, because Jesus is my rock with the uppercase R.
Aw. Well, and it looks like we are out of time. Unfortunately, I could go on talking to you all day. But Ann Mays, television host of Better With Us, and now author of Coffee with Him, Mornings with God on an Unexpected Journey. Ann, it's been wonderful having you on the show. And all the best to you and your husband as you continue to go through this journey together.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. It's been my pleasure.
Will Arndt is a professional quarterback in the Canadian Football League. He formerly played with the Ottawa Redblacks and is currently the backup quarterback with the BC Lions. He's also a Christian athlete and joins me now to discuss football and his faith. Joins me now via Skype from Newtown, Connecticut. Will, welcome to BCN.
Hal, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be on.
Will, you played college ball in Western Connecticut. Talk about that journey and how you made your way from the CFL instead of the NFL.
Yeah, so I like many guys I've come to discover, they have their own unique journey. Mine was a crazy one. So starting in high school, I had a very bad back injury. I had paralysis in my right leg. I was told I'd never play football again. And, so dealing with that in high school, I missed 2 years of football with that injury. I come back for my senior year. I break my right collarbone. So I had a lot of bad luck in high school. So then I ended up walking on at a Division III school, small school, Western Connecticut. And, I had to ask to play football there. And at the time, we were an 0-10 program. And, so I come from humble beginnings. And so, I wasn't expecting much. I was always a dream of mine to play pro football since I was a little kid. And, I kind of just took one day as it came. And before I knew it, I was the school's record-setting passer. And, I got some buzz coming out my draft year in 2016. There were some murmurs with some NFL teams, but, I said, man, this is my dream. I got a contract offer from the Calgary Stampeders at the time. And I said, I don't want to leave anything on the table. The CFL is a great league, and let me take what's there. And that's kind of where it began. But like anything else, I think success never is like this. There's always some bumps in the road. And so that brought me here today. I'm still playing professional football, going into really my fourth year with the BC Lions, and really excited about it. I hope we're able to get this season in.
Now, with the new agreement reached between the NFL and its players, which equals more money even on a practice roster, is it your goal to eventually head south of the border and play in the NFL?
I think as a competitor, I ultimately want to be the best version of myself, and I don't know what that entails. And I think that ultimately my faith just kind of takes care of that. I don't doubt anything. I trust in God's timing. And, as a competitor, I am in pursuit of the best version of myself, whether that's to be in the CFL or the NFL. I don't know. All I know is that I'm on the BC Lions now. I want to be the best darn quarterback that I can be. And the future will bring to me whatever it is.
That's a great attitude to have here, Will. And we'll talk about your faith in just a moment here. Who were some of your football heroes growing up?
Gosh, what's funny? I was just telling somebody about this earlier today. So just take Tom Brady, for example. I mean, I will be 27 in 2 weeks. And I remember being in third grade looking at Sports Illustrated magazines in elementary school, and Tom Brady was on the cover, and it's just so crazy to think, like, I'm in my 4th year of professional football, and Tom is still playing football when I was just a little kid looking at him in magazines. So, I mean, he's the first guy that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, he's quite a long career, absolutely. Now, what did you learn while playing in Ottawa for the Red Blacks that you brought to the BC Lions as a backup QB?
Yeah, I was very fortunate and thankful for my time in Ottawa. I learned a lot as a person and as a football player. And I think there's just a certain level of professionalism and then just obviously experiencing, right? Whether it's good or bad, I think the experience has taught me a lot of stuff that you really just can't put on paper. And I think that's unique. Like a lot of the things we went through last year in Ottawa, we had a rough season, taught me more than the Grey Cup years that we had the year before that. So, a lot of stuff that's hard to put into words. I think that that experience taught me, and I'm happy to be linked up with Coach Campbell again here in BC.
So most backup quarterbacks will want to be starters in the league. How tough is it to really prepare yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, knowing that you could come in at a moment's notice?
Yeah, it's a tough dynamic. I can tell you that. It's you prepare as if quarterback's such a unique position too, just by nature. Like, if you try, just because you try hard doesn't mean you're going to do good. There's a lot of things that go into it, right? And especially now, if you're a backup, you're not getting the reps in practice. So, your preparation is really the only thing you can control. So, it's a unique dynamic. I always sympathize with backup quarterbacks. With that being said, this is the nature of the business. And so when your number's called upon, you got to perform. And, that's just the way it is.
Do you ever say to the starter, Mike Riley, hey, buddy, don't worry. You can sit this one out. I got this.
Hey, you said it, not me.
Now, do you think we'll actually see any games being played this season during the COVID-19 pandemic? What have you heard about potentially playing in a hub location like Winnipeg?
Selfishly and with a grain of salt, I would love to play. Granted, I don't have kids or a family that makes the dynamic a little bit tricky for some guys in the league. But selfishly, I would love to play. I think it would just be a really good rallying cause for not only the country of Canada, but also the people here in the States that support us as well. So there's a lot of things to make it happen, but I know the CFLPA, the CFL are working together. I know the city of Winnipeg would love to have us in terms of the hub city, and I know the federal government's involved. So there's a lot of moving parts that a lot of people have been hearing about what's going on, and it's good to see at least talks are going on. So my fingers are crossed.
So, Will, what are you really doing to stay in shape during this time of coronavirus isolation?
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time outside. It's certainly not ideal, especially when the gyms are closed, the training facilities are closed, and whatnot, or at least affected in a major way. I've been spending a lot of time outside, being creative in terms of training programs. Been watching film, just finding little ways that I can get an advantage or keep myself engaged. I could tell you during like the March, April months of the pandemic, boy, I myself and a lot of other guys found very creative ways of working out and staying ready in terms of like, finding patches of grass to throw or run, or going to playgrounds to do some sort of a workout. So it's certainly going to be an interesting year when we look back on it in terms of what we were able to do to stay ready.
Now, Will, when you first came up, how difficult was it for you to adjust to playing the CFL game? 3 downs, not 4 downs, compared to American football.
Yeah, I know. I think it's something that a lot of people don't. I don't want to say get, but just don't have an appreciation for. The Canadian game is hard, man. Playing quarterback in this league, you run the ball on first down for 4 yards, and then on second down, let's say you're throwing it to the open guy, but it gets tipped. You're punting. It happens that quick, and you got to be efficient, and you can't have mishaps. So, I have a lot of appreciation for it. I always joke that if I were to go back to American style football, that it would be a lot easier. But I love the CFL game. It's creative. It's fast moving. I'm a big fan of the game and the league, and it's a lot of fun once you understand the nuances of it.
It drives my wife nuts. I mean, we're both big CFL fans. When we watch an NFL game, it's like handoff, handoff. You got 4 downs, you still can't get a first down. It's like 1.5 yards, 2 yards, 2.5. Like, really? That's it? Come on. Will, you are a fellow believer. What role has faith really played in your career and in your life?
Well, in terms of my faith, I think the big thing that, and it's an evolving thing, but I think the one thing that resonates with me is that, understanding the principle of like, what is faith unless it's tested, right? So you're going to be put in adverse situations in your life, in the game, but just understanding that, like, what is your faith unless it's tested, right? So, and then just understanding that life happens, for us and not to us. So just that dynamic and perspective change, I think, is important, and it's helped me along my journey.
Really lean on the Lord for strength physically, mentally, and emotionally, right? Now, are you involved with Athletes in Action? I know many pro football players are.
I haven't had a chance this offseason to do anything with them, but I was during when I was in Canada. We had a great group in Ottawa that I was involved with all my time there. It's something that I loved being a part of, and we did some events where we would share our messages and our stories. I loved being a part of that. I can't wait to get back with my teammates and do that again.
It's really interesting as well. Well, after a lot of games, we'll see teams get together, even opposition teams, the players, and they'll all kneel in a circle. A lot of times the cameras will go off those players, but tell me what happens and the prayer that's being said in those circles.
Yeah, it's such a unique dynamic. You got guys that were just, basically going to battle against each other, and then in a matter of 5 minutes, they're holding hands and they're praying for each other's health and families and transportation and travel. So it's just really cool. The dynamic of professional football is really unique in that matter, because it is truly everybody's on the same team at the end of the day. So that dynamic has been really cool for me, and to stay to keep my faith a part of the game has been great. Since I've been in college, I've been part of the FCA, which is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And now just being a part of Athletes in Action has been really great to be a part of as well.
Now, it seems that football is one of those sports where it's not uncommon for a lot of players wearing their faith on their sleeves. Why is it that football seems to attract more of that than other sports?
It's a great question. I hadn't really thought about it like that. I wish I had an answer for you, but I know it's a staple for a lot of guys in the locker room, and I don't know if maybe it's because it's such a physically trying game that faith becomes such a big part of their lives. I don't know. I'll actually have to do a little homework on that.
Thinking as well, maybe because a lot of the football players come from Texas, Alabama, Louisiana, Oklahoma. That's kind of a Bible Belt as well, the southern states, right? So maybe they're brought up in the Christian faith and they make their way to the NFL.
Right. No, that's certainly a good theory. I also think, not that it has anything to do with it, but a lot of the guys that I've met along my journey come from humble beginnings, and in order to make it to where they've made it, their faith is a staple and a necessity in their journey. And without it, they'd say it themselves, they wouldn't be there. And so I think that the faith is ultimately a universal theme in a lot of guys' success.
Do you sometimes get hassled by your teammates about your faith, your relationship in Christ?
No, gosh, no. It's regardless of however, whatever perspective or opinion or belief guys have, they've always been respectful. It's a brotherhood at the end of the day, and we would never exile anybody's behavior or belief.
There are protests across many cities in the United States right now as people are battling racism. How bad is racism in the Canadian Football League today? What have you seen?
Oh man, it's not. I think so many guys can attest to that. It's I know a lot of football players that during the time, a few weeks or a month or so back during the George Floyd murder, spoke up about, I wish that the world could see what the inside of a football locker room was like, because it's every color, it's every shape, it's every size, speed. It's such a inclusive sport, and so for us, sometimes maybe we forget, but the inside of a football locker room is so diverse, and I don't look at any of my guys any different, and they come from all over the place, different countries, different race, religion, but they're all just my brothers at the end of the day.
I totally agree with that. When I played high school ball many, many moons ago, I mean, I'm 6'4", I played offensive tight end, and yeah, we were like a family in that locker room. We always stood up for each other. Didn't matter the color of your skin or where you came from, absolutely. What do you think the church could really learn from a CFL team?
Well, I think just that, right? I think that regardless of where you're from, or what you look like, or what you believe, that it has no boundaries or no exceptions, and that love is love.
What would you say to a young child, Will, who's watching, who's maybe thinking, you know what, I want to become a pro football player someday?
Well, I can tell you firsthand that don't let anybody ever tell you you can't do something. You know, if it's something that is truly, truly driving you, go after it, because if you don't, it'll bother you. And go after it with all your heart, regardless of what anybody says, because that seems to be a common theme that I found with anybody that excels at a high level, is that they stuck to their dream, they stuck to their guns, and they went for it. And then you have no regrets regardless.
Let me ask you something. How do you deal with disappointment when the coach says, you know what, I'm going to play Mike Riley for the first 5 or 6 games. I'll try and slot you in there, Will, and then he changes his mind. It's like you're preparing, you're ready to go in, you're going to start a game against the Riders, the Stamps, whatever, and then that falls through. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, you know, one of the things of playing quarterback is you just don't ride the roller coaster. Just be very stoic, and you know, ultimately, a job of a quarterback, take out the X's and O's and, you know, the logistics of it. Your job is to exude confidence in your teammates at a very primal level. And so regardless of if I'm in or I'm out, my job is to exude confidence in my teammates that, hey, if I'm playing or if I'm not playing, that I'm ready to go and I'll help our team win.
BC Lions backup quarterback and Christian athlete Will Arndt, thanks for joining me today from Newtown, Connecticut.
Hal, thanks so much for having me.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.